In the name of God, our Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer. Amen. So today we have the Transfiguration. After all of the bread discourse in John, it is nice to have a break from this Gospel of Luke and to hear about Jesus going up the mountain with his friends. It's interesting also that there's a story in Exodus about Moses going up the mountain and getting the 10 Commandments. And I want to give a shout out to John Stromgren. Thank you for doing a reflection on each one of those commandments that I'm sharing. I think we're through 5, so 5 more to go. But it is good for us to remember that it's not just Jesus that is transfigured. I think we can sometimes just cede that kind of incredible reality to Jesus because after all, Jesus is Jesus. I think it's helpful to remember that Moses was transfigured. And it is good to remember that we can be transfigured by experiencing God. I think it's good to remember that, first of all, because I want you to think about your transfigurations, your quote-unquote mountaintop experiences, those times when you have been in the Celtic tradition they call a thin space, a time when you have felt the presence of God. And I think then what we have to ask is, what do we do with those experiences? So I don't know about you, but I love to ski and I love to surf. And both of those incredible, wonderful activities require good conditions for it to be, as people say, epic. And it takes God and Mother Nature to conspire for the winds to be just right, for the waves to be good, and for the moisture in the snow to be just the right way so that the powder is light and fluffy and not like concrete. But if you're like me, most of the time that people have had those experience of mountaintop experiences is that people will say, oh, wow, you really missed it. Should have been here yesterday. And or as the saying goes, there are no friends on powder days. And the idea, though, is that sometimes we do that with our religious and our spiritual experiences with God. Instead of saying, let me tell you about it. It was awesome. We say, you should have been here yesterday. You really missed it. And I think there is that temptation, and that we think that we can share this without it being kind of soapboxy. We can share our experience of God, where we have been transfigured. I believe that is the work of the gospel, that we are to share with one another our experience of God so that others might come close and experience the same. Experience that transfiguration and transformation. A way in my vocation that I am so privileged is that I get to be with people at the end of life. I get to walk them through it, and I get to celebrate their life. Oftentimes, sometimes, I will officiate at a funeral where I didn't know the person that well or didn't know them at all in life. And one of the ways that I have been transfigured and people have shared their experience of God and light with me is that there have been times that I have officiated at a funeral where I didn't know that person at all. But by the time the funeral came, I did. Because the family and the friends shared their love and their stories about their loved one with me so completely, so enthusiastically, so compassionately that I truly knew them. It is one of the great gifts to give, is that we share with one another our experience of love and light. So this day, as we celebrate Jesus' transfiguration, let's just not put it out there. Let's not say, oh, that's Jesus' thing, God's son and all. But say, no, how have we been transfigured? By experiencing the love of God. Because that is the shining face, is it not? It is that sharing with one another God's love. I was in Prescott Park last night, and I just looked around and people were transfigured. It has been so long since we've been able to gather and listen to beautiful music together. And I had as much fun looking at the faces of the people in the audience as I did looking at the artists, who were truly transfigured as well, because it was the first time they had been able to perform since the pandemic started. How do we share our shining faces with each other? It is such a filling, joy-filled reality, and one that I think we desperately need. So please pray for me as I move through my life, that I will not have my experiences of God and then say to people, you should have been here yesterday, you really missed it. But instead, learn to share my experience of God with people in a way that reveals my shining face and reveals the love of God for all people. I believe that this world desperately needs us to be sharing this joy and this light with each other. Pray for me that I will do it. And please know that I will pray for you as well. Amen.